and this is Weaponized.
I was studying the molecular biology of acute myeloblastic leukemia. In other words, how leukemic cells grow, and they grow out of control and they kill people. So part of my study was working with this guy, Ernest McCullough, who was actually credited with discovering stem cells in mice back in the 60s. So the Ontario Cancer Institute was sort of the place in Canada. It was kind of the flagship place for research in Canada. So I had this guy as a mentor, and one of the things that he always drummed into me was, look, son, if you really want to catch a big fish, go fish in places where there's nobody else fishing. And that whole sort of advice stuck with me because I could see the difference between science as business as usual versus science in a sort of a much more I guess paradigm creating way. So I took his advice to heart, and I was working down in Denver, Colorado, in an immunology research institute. When I saw this, I opened Science magazine, which is kind of the sort of
Bible.
Yes, the Bible of science. And you see ads for postdoctoral fellowships in virology and sort of graduate students in sort of biochemistry. But in the middle of all of these really technical ads, there was a sort of almost a full page ad saying, we are recruiting scientists who are interested in researching the origin and evolution of consciousness in the universe. I mean, can you imagine for a sort of a mainstream biologist, sort of biochemist looking at this? I mean, the kind of the verbiage just blew my mind. And there was a phone number at the bottom of the page. So I was so intrigued, I called it, and I got to talk to Robert Bigelow's assistant, and then I got to talk to Robert Bigelow, and then I found myself out in Las Vegas, Nevada, in Robert Bigelow's corporate office, sort of sitting there interviewing me, and he hired me a couple of weeks later, and it was like a total life-changing sort of change in direction, because I moved from mainstream science into what could be called, borderline science or liminal science, or science that was not 100% accepted by the mainstream. So I mean, it was that ad in Science magazine that I could, I guess, say changed my life.
Well, it was the uninvestigated is what it was. And what year? Because I want to see where that possible
1996.
Yeah,
Where our
1996.
paths crossed.
Yeah.
Wow.
I joined an organization called the National Institute for Discovery Science. And, the name of the National Institute for Discovery Science is worth noting, because discovery is the sort of essence of the scientific process. And the purpose for NIDS, as it was called for short, was to actually investigate anomalies. And investigating anomalies was an inherent part of the discovery process in sort of opening up new fields for research. So I thought that the nomenclature, naming National Institute for Discovery Science was a very good move on the part of Robert Bigelow.